Hello everyone, and welcome to this video where we are going to be building these new quads. As you can see here on the left hand side, we have the old version of the quad or ATV that I've previously released, and I don't like it. I think it's oversized and weird looking. It looks like a moon rover, but at the time I thought it was great because I didn't know any better. So that said, here are the new versions. And while they look pretty similar on the front, they are mechanically very different. This one here is motor powered. It has a 1-cylinder engine, and this one is fully electric powered. So depending on the application and what you're thinking of doing, you have two cute little ATV quads at your disposal. So we're gonna go through the steps and kind of explain where I got and how I got here. These promo shots by Pingu and Alistair were the start of this whole thing. I saw these photos and I thought that is a great little quad. I looked at it in detail and then I thought back to my original monstrosity that I made a few years ago, and I thought, alright, I gotta do something. And this is the perfect starting point. And this was on my Discord server where they released these promo shots, and I fell in love. I thought the shape looked amazing. I could definitely see some detail. And I know it is XML modded, but doesn't even matter. The fact that it looks so perfect, I really liked. Now, they went ahead and made something phenomenal, and I highly recommend you all take a look. Not only did they make this sort of RV toy hauler, they took it one step further and made a whole dealership. Now, there are some fantastic promo shots of their dealership on my Discord server, and they're going to be releasing this soon, hopefully, but just look at this thing. I could see a ton of detail already. If the interior is fantastic, there's all kinds of different parts of the shop where you can buy boats and things, even a display for the ATV. So anyway, not a promotion, but just a fantastic little creation that I really like, and I highly recommend you all take a look at it when it hits the workshop. Anyway, what happened is I saw that quad and they were nice enough to give me a file of it so I could take a look at it in detail. Now, like I said, I love the shape. Clearly they went and used XML modding, which ended up looking fantastic for this. The shape and functionality are perfect. You could see that you press 1, starts it right up. And there you have it. You have a perfect little quad that you could take on all kinds of adventures, and it could fit in all kinds of places. So this served as my main inspiration and starting point. Now, again, not using XML modding myself and having them kind of using this invisible microcontroller here, I got to thinking how I can possibly implement it in my version. So then came the start of my quad. Now, I went and created this contraption, and kind of based off their style but my own. I just loosely used theirs as a guide for the sizing, which is honestly a good size for a quad. I don't want it to be large, especially when you consider my previous rat ATV or quad was this size. So that is a huge difference. The one on the left is pretty much like a car. In fact, I made cars that are this wide, so this is way too big. And it doesn't have to have suspension or all that fancy stuff, so you could just see the size difference is huge. And I went and tried out this miniature gas engine, but truthfully it got late, and what I ended up doing is just making a purely electrical version of it. Now, normally I don't talk about, giving up, but that's not what I did. I took a break. I developed a shape, a body, and a style that I liked, and a system that worked. When you spawn this thing up, like I showed you, we could fire it up, and if we hop aboard here, we can drive it around. Now, my wheels turn faster. I kind of have that almost like Grand Theft Auto style handling. And I know they skid, but at least you can kind of quickly make turns and such. That's a little bit more my style. Anyways, this vehicle seems to work properly. And what I did is a simple microcontroller from my golf carts, which actually when placed side by side is fairly comparable. You know, obviously the quad is smaller, but that's to be expected. However, side by side, they are pretty good company. So I'd say I like my golf cart, and I think that it works quite nicely. And you can see that power on, and it is much smaller or slower, of course, but that is okay. It's a golf cart. The quad definitely does kind of stay true to its function and works in much similar fashion for an electric powered vehicle. Now, remember how I said a thing about not giving up? Well, I didn't give up. Instead, I kept on trying and finally came up with this gas-powered version that has a one-cylinder engine along with some other things in here, but mainly it uses a very similar system to Pingu and Alistar's, with the exception that there is no modding and the microcontroller is my own. The setup of the engine, while similar, is different. I actually have added this gas valve or gas relief valve and placed the gas tank in the center. You know, some minor differences. Overall, similar idea. However, my personal preference is to have the start be a button rather than just one or two on the keyboard. Inside this microcontroller here, I've added the steering and other functions as well, including the instrument panels and the seat itself. So this is like a very small modular engine microcontroller. There is no fan, but the idea is that the fan or the engine stays at a very low RPS and does not overheat. Of course, that may not be fine for sustained periods of time, but for general driving, I found that this engine works quite well. So if we hop on, now obviously the seat is not as nice as the other examples, but for a non-modded version and for Stormworks, I'd say this is pretty nifty. So you can see the same setup, 1, 2, 3, handbrake, reverse headlights. And here, if we kind of look properly at this one, you can see the fuel amount. Now, if you remember the fuel video that I made talking about not seeing the full 30 liters or whatever, that's because of this. So you can see that my fuel is only showing 4.8, even though the little gas tank should have way more. And truthfully, it does have way more. So I'm quite happy. This should be able to go much further, and you can overfill it as well. You can connect the hose to the gas tank here and actually end up getting even more capacity than you normally would with just the singular tank. So I did these two versions, and it got me thinking, all right, this one is now functional. It's a full vehicle. It has a gas-powered engine, which is my preference, especially here. And I've added some of these things. I've added a little towing hook, whereas here, I've not combined the microcontrollers. So we have steering box, we have the electric car throttle, which is the same from the golf cart, and up here we have the instrument panel, dials, indicator, all that stuff. So what I can do, and what I will do, is revise this here. Now, I do like how this one looks. I do have to admit, the seat looks kind of comfy there and nice, whereas this one looks just like a flat bench. But it is what it is. I take form or function over form, so all of this can go. And with that all removed, you can see now that these microcontrollers are pretty exposed and pretty simple to drag out. And when we do that, it leaves us much more space for, first of all, more batteries, which will give us greater range. That's number one. And number two, I'll be able to move this relay so I could put a towing hook, because what I think is quite nice is the ability to connect a trailer to this quad. So that can be placed right here. Just a quick sample, the gas one pulling this generator and light boom. So of course you can't expect a one-cylinder engine to really tow too much, but it does get the job done. If you're trying to move stuff around site, you can use this to kind of pull around some of the trailers. And of course there may be smaller utility style trailers that can be used with the quad, so I will keep that in mind. Of course it does not have HGS, so the brakes on the trailer do not engage, but you're moving at such a slow speed that I think it really does not matter. Another nice thing is the front has the hardpoint connector. So the back having this, not only can you pull trailers, but you can also use it to attach the quad to a base or trailer or something else and have it stowed that way. So it gives you dual functionality. The front has the rope anchor on both of them. The rear does not, but if you're trying to kind of pull things like a winch style, then you could just use that front hook. You don't necessarily need to tow something with that. So I did not want that. I just wanted the logo there instead. So we've cleared out this one, put the relay down there, and that gave us now the option or the availability to place other things here. So we could put the battery as I had in the other version and give us more capacity, which is probably the wisest thing to do. But in the center, I will put the towing hook. So what I'm going to do is place the batteries here and on the underside, giving us that much more capacity, and the only place the microcontroller will exist will be on the top here, matching what we have in the other ones. So just like that. When everything's connected, you're going to see that we've now gained a total of, 6 batteries. So that's not bad. That'll give us more range, and all of this stuff will be combined into this one single microcontroller, therefore giving us 2 that not only look similar, but function similarly as well. We're going to jump right into this microcontroller that is for the engine version. And what we're going to do is revise some of this stuff. So obviously the wheels stay, the brakes stay, the fuel is now going to be the battery. Reverse gear is no longer applicable because of course you can just use the negative throttle on your motor. Seat stays, and we kind of just go through them one by one. Gas and air does not stay, RPS does not stay, starter motor does not, and that is pretty much the revised microcontroller. Inside the microcontroller, some of the things can remain as they are. For example, our steering, so that can stay as it is, but what cannot stay as it is the throttle part. So this is here related to brakes, which is fine. It pretty much says that if you're not on the seat, the brake will be engaged, your handbrake will be engaged. Over here, our battery is going into the composite, so that's fine. Everything here is related to the motor, so we're going to remove all that, and we're pretty much left purely with the composite input here, which actually I should not have removed because that one is going directly to the on and off button, but all this stuff can go. As you can see here, this is channel 2 read from the seat, which is the throttle, so that is what we're going to attach to the throttle, but we're going to leave that like this for now and jump into this one here, the electric car throttle and brake controls V3. So I'm just going to copy everything from here and plug it into this microcontroller, and that's going to be pretty much our starting point. I'm just going to merge the two together. Some of you may know how to do this, some of you may not, but that is a-okay. So here is the seat. So you can see that the seat itself attaches to this, this, and this, and that overrides this 2. So I could remove the old 2. So this is throttle going to all this stuff. This is 6, which I believe is our eco mode. So you can see that eco mode goes to 40% throttle, and 32 is for the seat itself. And actually this is back to the brake value, so we don't want any of this because we already have it up there. Now this is our on and off button. So this has to actually go to the breaker or the relay. And that is the way that this setup is configured, is once you turn on the relay, that's when your motor, or yeah, your electric motor gets activated. So the relay goes there. And of course we need our actual electric motor. So number, output, and that is going to our motors. And that is probably the most important one because that is how you're your craft gets power. So in this case, it goes through there. We're gonna have to see the signal switch and all that stuff, but that is the one for the reverse. So I have to find out our reverse button, which is coming from our seat. So that's this here. And as you can see, the brakes are handbrakes here, and this too is the reverse, which is now being plugged into that. Testing it out in the actual game here. So we're gonna plug in everything we have to. Right now you can see it's going to the old setup, but we're gonna grab this and plug it into the instrument panel, and the seat goes to there. So now that old one is entirely obsolete. In fact, I'm gonna remove all those. And let us see now. So motors are going to be under here, throttle and throttle. Battery, we can use any old battery. Left wheel. Now I'm gonna have to see if the steering is configured properly, but regardless, it'll be easy to switch it. And brakes. Now for the other one, I do have the handbrake engaged by hotkey 1, as we know. But remember what I showed you in the microcontroller is if you're off, the variable brakes pretty much go to 100%. So it acts like not a real handbrake, but it pretty much acts a similar way. Now the relay is important because that's what's going there. And you could see that the backlight is now not on. Previously, when we hopped on and turned it on, it turns on, whereas now we're going to plug it into the headlights so it actually matches what we have on the other version. Now that should handle most of these things here. As far as looks go, you can see that they're very similar, almost identical or fully identical in the front. Similar on the rear. The motor one does have some stuff here, whereas the electric kind of has some design elements. Now if we hop in here and turn the power on, alright, and it left and right actually works. The brake works. So overall, I would say that that is successful. Now handbrake, you can see it doesn't go. If I put it in reverse, we go backwards. Perfect. Headlights work. And eco mode. Now eco mode, the only way to test it is by actually driving it. You can just see the thing slow down a little bit, but even eco mode works. So I'm quite content with this. One thing you can see is that the microcontroller is not well optimized. I could actually shove everything here and make it physically smaller, which is probably what I'm going to do for saving it. I'm going to put it like that, and I'm just going to rename this small electric vehicle ECU 1.1 with steering. So that is what I'm going to call this, and actually I can make it smaller and save this here just so I have it for future references. And then of course I'll make it larger just so I can have it take up the whole seat space. Now that is to make it match. If I wanted to, I could make it smaller and have that other design element, but I actually do think that I'm happy with it matching. Now we just have to reattach all of our brakes and steering. And of course that went to something else. So what it was previously was the throttle, and now the throttle is here, so no big deal. And some of this. So that is it. That got us two little quads, both of which are fully functional. One is gas powered, obviously not as fast, but still pretty cool. And the fact that it is gas powered in such a small configuration in itself is impressive. And then of course we get the other one that is electric, not as impressive as far as making it work, but functional nonetheless, and fast. It goes pretty fast. It goes much faster than the other configurations. So depending on what you need to do, you have two options available to you. So thank you all for watching. Stay tuned for more videos. Stay tuned for more content. And as always, happy Stormworksing everyone. See you in the next video.